Ladies, I have the opportunity for the next 10 to 12 minutes to take some questions from the audience, and I know you'd like to be a part of this discussion. So keeping in mind the logistics information that was shared with you in the beginning, I'm going to ask you to please go to the microphones, and forgive me if I have to cut it off due to time. But let's start right here in the middle.
Hi, my name is Kenise Gray. I'm 23, Champion for Progress. I just want to say thank you so much for this. And I have business cards for all of you because I would love to stay in contact. My question is as follows. I'm the International Second Vice President for Alpha Kappa Alpha, and I have the honor. Hi. I have the honor of giving our undergraduates advice. So what advice or words of wisdom can you give me to share with them about things we can do now to ensure we have our best lives at 40 and beyond?
Anybody want to start?
I'll start. So I say there's three things, or I'll give you three things. I would say listen, and that's listen to your elders and the wisdom that they can impart to you. Learn from whatever your experiences are, whether they're good or bad. There's something that you can learn from them. And I would say, lastly, I would just say, live thankfully. Make sure that, every day before you go to bed, that you think of the things that you can be thankful of, because even in the darkest times, there's a nugget of something that you can be thankful for. And just remember that and live your life as fully as you can.
And Sarah, I'm going to give you a little piece of advice because I actually had that role at American University as Second Supreme Anti-Bacillus also. Be strategic. That's what I want you to do. Be long-range planning. Know that you can set short-term goals that will lead to long-term successes. And never, ever, ever think a setback is the end. Only God places periods. Everybody else puts commas, semicolons, and dashes. So long-term strategic planning will get you where you want to be. And it's okay to be nimble and switch it up if they start blocking your path in one direction. Good luck. Who's next? All the way on this side? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is A. Rogine Bell Reed. Thank you all for participating. I wanted to ask, aside from meditation or prayer, what one thing does each of you do on a regular basis to ensure that your spiritual peace, and or to relieve stress? What one thing does each of you do?
Linda, why don't you start?
Okay, so I've been practicing yoga since I was 16 and started meditating at 16 also. I don't know why, but it just sort of happened, and so I just kept doing it. You all see that I've got this book here, and you've got cards on your chairs. This book is filled with those kinds of tips. What do healthy Black women do every day to stay healthy? And there's some really interesting tips in here, and it's all from a perspective of strength. And Star, if I could just take this moment to thank Michelle and Essence, because this is based on the Black Women's Health Study that's 23 years old now. And 25 years ago, Essence and the folks there had the vision and intestinal fortitude to participate. I don't know how many people are in this audience who are members of this study, but we asked them to go back and study healthy Black women, because I don't know if anybody in this room is tired of talking about what's wrong with us. I am. So this is all about healthy Black women. So you can learn what healthy Black women do to stay healthy. And it's full of things that we can do right now. So I would like you all to just join me in thanking Essence for doing this for us. Because this is where we begin. We don't start with what's wrong with us. We start with what's right with us.
Michelle, you go right ahead.
I would say one step that I've taken that's helped me tremendously is, finding some solitude. When you're working, I work a lot. I travel probably 150,000 miles a year. I have 2 sons, and now 14 and 15. There are times, it's hard to find a time where it's just me. I could be on the flight, and when someone's talking to me, I just want to say, just give me peace. But that solitude, it gives me a moment to pull back, because you get caught up in sometimes around toxic people or toxic behaviors. But if you can pull back and just be with your thoughts and find, let your mind wander what's worrying you, and not be judgmental. Not be judgmental to yourself, be compassionate. I try in my solitude to be compassionate to myself. Oh, that happened. Well, Michelle, yes, you could do something differently, but you did the best you could. Or if someone, I felt, didn't tell the truth about me and I had anger, and what am I going to do in my solitude, I could say, well, maybe there was something that they didn't understand. And I can let go of negativity. And I could find that compassion for myself and then understand how I can think clearly and get to my true purpose. So whether I go on long walks or just go sit in the garden, that solitude has become very necessary in my life, so that I don't let what's on the outside determine what's on the inside.
Fantastic. Claudia?
I wake up at 4:30 every morning to exercise. And I do that because, well, after work, I realized I wasn't really doing it, so I had a glass of wine instead. But I wake up and I do that because it's a quiet time. Everything's quiet at that period of time. And what you were saying, it allows you just to de-stress, begin your day in sort of centered. And so that's what I do. I mean, I get up, I work out, and I used to be a runner, but I don't do that as much anymore. But I just find that it helps me cope. My mom passed away in January of this year, and I realized that working out and exercising just helped me get through it. It put me in a space and place that allowed me to deal with that. And so I work out.
Nikki, what do you do?
I don't know. My aunt we were talking about death, but my aunt just died. And when Agnes died, and some of you know my Aunt Agnes, I became the oldest person in my family. And I'm still trying to, figure out what that means and my responsibilities, and so I'm probably not good. I only get because of my health problem, I only get one glass of champagne a day. So
Sympathies.
that's all they allow me. So I'm trying to get well so that I can go back to like my 2 and 3.
Champagne. Simone, what do you do?
So I do a multitude of things, but also it's not consistent every day. There'll be days I get up at 5:20 and I'm not back in my room until 10 o'clock. And constantly, especially in this role, it's serving the varying demands on your time, and that's what it is. Doing my job is giving my time to others. So fundamental to all of these activities that we do and partake in is allowing yourself permission to do them. And for every individual, it'll be something different, but what we all struggle with, because we're all busy, is saying, you know what, it is fundamental to my survival and my productivity to allow myself to do yoga, to allow myself to meditate, to allow myself to reflect, and I don't care who's asking for my time, I will do this, and that's not changing.
Good stuff. Mine is very superficial. I get a body scrub once a month, no matter what. No matter where, I will get a full-on body scrub where all I do is lay on a table and get washed from head to toe by a big Russian lady, and a Vichy shower comes down, and every piece of stress goes away. And then I go home and have a glass of champagne. That works for me. Let me go all the way to the left, and then we'll do one more round. There's someone at the microphone there.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shamika Brathwaite, and as a follow-up question, I would like to ask the panelists, with all the different activities, organizations, work, family, and life responsibilities, what advice do you have for us to fully be present at every stage in our life to enjoy the moments?
Simone, let's start with you.
So one thing that we practice in the military, ma'am, is there is an intent and purpose in every single thing we do. Something as small as doing a run or doing a ruck march or ambushing enemy unit.
I love it.
If that makes sense, I'm sorry. But there is...
Simone, you just said war games is what
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's important not only in years, not only in months, weeks, days, and even hours, that you identify the intent and purpose behind it. And it doesn't have to be objective. It doesn't need to be, I run 5 miles. It needs to be, hey, I feel as though I pushed myself. And I think that allows you to be present because every single second you're striving towards that mission and vision that you have for the activity. And that is something that applies on the small scale, but also through life. So then when you're on your deathbed, you can say to yourself, hey, did I achieve this intent and purpose of my life? If I did, awesome, check the box, great job. So hopefully that answers your question with not too much military jargon in there, but.
Does anybody else want to go ahead and contribute to this? That's why I would get into some additional questions. Anybody? I think.
I'll just say one thing, and I hope no one's recording this since I work for AT&T. I find that our devices actually distract us from being in the moment. And, you know, I find that it's really hard to put down, but in order to really be in the moment, you can't do that in text, and you can't do that and look at email, and you can't do that and have your phone distract you. So sometimes you just have to separate yourself from your devices. I can't believe I'm saying this. And, and just really be in the moment with who you're talking to or who you need to address or what you need to do. It's really hard to do it with a device in your hand.
Can I add one
Yes.
thing? Since you are the first person to do what you are doing, I wish that you would just take 10 minutes before you go to bed or before you actually wake up and write what you're thinking. Just because at some point, 50 years from now, we are going to want to know what you were thinking.
Yeah. Good. Wonderful, wonderful. Let's see if we can take a question here.
I'm sorry I can't stand because I just had foot surgery, but my name is Carol Wilkerson, and I was in the Army Medical Corps, and I attained the rank of a lieutenant colonel. This question is for Cadet Simone. Nikki says that we should cry, and you know that is not good for you. You know, the media, they just waited for Hillary to start crying so Trump could jump all on that during the campaign. So tell me about crying when you have the job that you have in the military.
Good question.
So I'll say I cry a lot, actually. Don't tell anyone that. And if it's not in front of my mom, then it's in front of my boyfriend. And I don't mean to be cliche in any way, but at the end of the day, sometimes I'll just sit down and talk to him. So I encourage crying. For me, it's being very strategic with that crying, because although I have the perception that crying shows emotional strength, that's not what everyone accepts. And in the military, especially as a female, if you're seen crying, it's seen as emotional instability, quite frankly, ma'am. So just knowing when the right place and the right time is, but be purposeful in finding that place so that you can do it very frequently. Hopefully that provides some clarity in when I choose to cry. But yes, I do it a lot. I get stressed sometimes, so.
Everybody does. And the fact that Hillary didn't punch somebody in the face is a wonder in and of itself. What the hell, crying? Go ahead, sweetheart. On this side.
Good morning. My name is Betty Ensminger, and I am a returning student to the University of the District of Columbia. I am 59.
Bravo.
And so what I want to know is, as an entertainer, model, actor, singer, sorry we're in the same business, how do I inspire my fellow students? And I'm maintaining a 3.5. How do I inspire my fellow students without whooping their behind? Because some of them, I try to motivate, and it's like pushing me. It's like I'm not a mother. I want to be a student. So how do you turn that off to stay in the student mode without allowing the mother? Because I have 2 of my own daughters. So how do I do that? That's for any of you guys. Thank you.
Nikki, I'm going to ask you to take that. Because you've been working with students for so many years.
My answer won't be any good because why the hell should you? What your responsibility is only to yourself. I mean, what makes you think, oh, damn, I need to tell them what to do? Who are you?
I'm going to get there. My goal is to get to where she is. That is my goal. Let me be very clear on that. Let me go to the far left. I can take one more.
Hello, my name is Emmanuel Hay. I'm a sophomore at Howard University currently. So as you mentioned, Black women are very spiritual, and it's an important part of our lives and very important to our culture. But do you think we use God as a crutch or a defense mechanism to avoid or sort of deflect underlying issues, which then creates just problems because then we deteriorate as we tell ourselves that we're okay and that we're mentally sound, but overall we're not really taking care of ourselves?
Linda, I am going to start with you.
That's a really good question. And you hear that, you see that in print, you hear that in the media all the time. And maybe for some people that's the case, but I think in general, no, that's not the case. If you have a relationship with God, then you have a relationship with God. And I don't think one can use God. I'm not a theologian, but I don't think God allows God to be used. So, in terms of that peacefulness that Black women, how they, talk about health and how they view themselves, that's their relationship with God. And the beautiful thing is they can talk, they can have a conversation. You can get mad at God. This is great. You can be angry all day long. God can take it. But at the end of the day, it's not a crutch. It becomes a source of strength if you're looking at it as a part of your purposeful life. Yeah.
I want to share with you just a very personal perspective. When they told me I had to have open heart surgery, it was actually elective. I hadn't had a heart attack. It was preventive. It's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of the Affordable Care Act, because preventive medicine saved my life. There is no question. But I had time to plan it. I got to pick my anesthesiologist, the person who would put me to sleep. I got to pick the actual surgeon who would make the cut. I got to pick the person who would take the heart out and be protective of the heart and put me on the heart-lung machine. And that person, that's the hand of God, right? That's going to stick his hand in your chest. I want you to know, I swear an oath to you, the day of the surgery, he said to me, "What do you need right now?" And I said, "I honestly just need to pray." He said, "So do I." And the man who would take my heart out stood in the operating theater and prayed with me. So I figure if at that time he's praying, there's no shame in me praying anytime, any place, anywhere. And that's a very true story. So it wasn't a crutch. It was, for him, he wanted some additional hands in the operating theater. So using God as your additional strength, I think gives us as Black women strength. That's my take on that.